Adolf Hitler was born on April 20, 1889 to an Austrian father and an Austro-Hungarian mother. He spent most of his childhood in Linz, the capital of Upper Austria. Hitler dropped out of secondary school and decided to pursue his dream of being an artist following his father's death, although he was rejected from Vienna's Academy of Fine Arts. After his mother died, he moved to Vienna, where he developed an interest in politics and fermented his ideas that would later shape the Nazi ideology. Hitler moved to Munich in 1913 and volunteered in a reserve infantry regiment, after which he was deployed to Belgium in 1914. He was wounded twice in World War I, and he was still recovering when news of Germany's defeat came in. After he returned to Munich in late 1918, Hitler joined the German Workers' Party, and 2 years later, he left the army and became in charge of the party's propaganda. Hitler's propaganda visions started to take shape when the newly renamed National German Workers' Party, or Nazi Party, adopted the swastika, which was an old sacred symbol of Hinduism, Buddhism, and Jainism. By late 1921, Hitler rose with the Nazi Party, attracting dissatisfied former army officers in Munich to join the party, most notably Ernest Röhm. On November 8, 1923, members of a squad formed by Röhm forced their way into a beer hall where another right-wing leader was giving a speech, where Hitler declared the beginning of a national revolution and led crowds to the center of Munich, where they clashed with the police. Hitler fled, and other leaders were arrested that evening. Despite the failure of the proclaimed revolution, the beer hall putsch put Hitler on the map as a national figure. He was sentenced to 5 years in prison for treason, of which he only served 9 months. In that period, he began writing his book, Mein Kampf, in which he devised plans for Germany and the whole world to execute when he assumed power. He became chancellor in 1932, seizing the chance as the government was in chaos and 3 chancellors failed to take control. On January 30, 1933, the Third Reich, or what the Nazis called the Thousand-Year Reich, was born. Later in July, the government passed a law stating that the Nazi Party was the only political party in Germany, and in the next few months, all non-Nazi parties and trade unions were eradicated. In September 1935, the government passed laws that would deprive Jews of German citizenship and bar them from marrying people with German or related blood. After a series of attempts to provoke the Allies, Nazi troops invaded Poland on September 1st, 1939, prompting France and Britain to declare war on Germany. Hitler would later launch attacks all over Europe in an attempt to break the Allies. He then shifted his focus to trying to force one of his main opponents, Britain and the Soviet Union, to make peace with him. After the war picked up steam, Nazis started massacring Jews instead of expelling them from German territories. Death squads were sent to execute Jewish communities during the invasion of the Soviet Union, while concentration camps like Auschwitz were established. In addition to forced labor and mass executions, Jews at Auschwitz were subjected to medical experiments, exposing thousands to diseases, disfigurement, and torture. Nazis also imprisoned and murdered Catholics, political dissidents, Romas, and disabled people. After a series of defeats, Hitler's health deteriorated, and as the Allies got closer, he stayed in his bunker in Berlin and made plans for resistance before eventually abandoning them. Hitler later married Eva Braun on April 29. He shot himself dead on April 30, after which his wife poisoned herself and died. Their bodies were burnt according to his will. The Thousand-Year Reich lasted for only 12 years and collapsed with Hitler's death. But these 12 years were enough for Adolf Hitler to wreak havoc across Europe and the world, forever changing the course of history.